Like a lot of things in this movement, the fair, the license, the fair, Mini Maker Fair program was kind of born out of demand, and it was a very organic process where some of the inner community started wanting to do a Mini Maker Fair, and it was friends, and it was like, sure, and then it started to grow, and probably many of you are familiar with that. So, and I don't know how many of you saw my end of the year report and slide presentation that I circulated amongst the producers. I probably should share that with this group once this is over. It had a lot of findings that we culled from all of the surveys that we do with the attendees and with the producers at the after your events. And you know, we did learn some interesting things about the Mini Maker Fair program and who's coming to the fairs and where they're hearing about it. But it also sort of encapsulates where we were last year. We were at 61 fairs last year, which was around the world, 61 Maker Fairs. So there was 2 flagship events. New York and Bay Area are 2 flagship events. 3 featured fairs, which are larger scale events that are greater collaborations with us, sponsorship, co-sales, larger scale. And then 56 minis around the world. And that was a growth, that was 161% growth from the year before in terms of the Mini Maker Fairs. So last year was a huge push in terms of growth of the program. And I think actually the pace is slowing down a little bit. I think the number of applications or the number of people moving through it has slowed down a little bit, but we'll see what it ends up being by the end of the year. The biggest seasons, you know, we're just starting fair season right now. It's heavy now, but the heaviest is actually September, October. It dies a bit in the summer and then comes back with, you know, September, October is definitely the heaviest for some reason. And then hopefully we're going to get more in South America so that the winter, like, you know, our winter stays, you know, can't just be like this.
Or Hawaii, where it's beautiful.
Right.
Beach Island.
So let's see. The other interesting thing I just wanted to share before we get into it, because we did do all these introductions, I do want to run around one, you know, if there's a need for people to reconnect with the introductions now that we're a smaller group, that was kind of what we were going to be doing here. But the other thing to think about the program, the other thing that we learned is that it's a pretty interesting equal division between the types of people who are organizing the fairs. So like the quarter of them are museums or, you know, are the science or mostly science museums organizing them. Then there's probably a quarter that are nonprofits, which a lot of times are maker spaces or other nonprofit community organizations. There's another, little bit less, but another quarter almost, that's schools, somehow affiliated with the school or organized by a school. And then another quarter are independents, which are actually, you know, they're legal business entities. So they might be a independent event producer who's also a maker who's really into it, or it might be actually Parallax. You know, they're looking to organize one in Sacramento in combination with Makerspace. And the other kind of lovely thing that's happening is that there's these cross-pollinations between the museums and the makerspaces, or the business and the school, or there's these interesting collaborations that are happening, like in Fresno. There was one just recently with a makerspace and the sports team, the first makerspace fair put on by a minor league baseball team. And then in the fall, there's going to be one with the art museum. Who's here for something? So, and that same group is actually, you know, going to also facilitate the event at the art museum. So it's really an interesting thing to see what's coming at me and how that mirrors what's happening in a broader sense around this bigger movement. I look forward to, so when I ask you for all this data and I bother you for reporting and surveys, which I need to get back on, for those of you who finished, I probably haven't been at you yet because of this, but it does help us understand what's happening. It is used, it is evaluated. We went through a lot of thinking about it. At the end of the year, there was this pretty big transition for us, moving from O'Reilly Media as a company to Maker Media as a company. And in that major change, institutionally for Maker Faire and all of our properties becoming really the startup now. We are an independent company. We no longer are, O'Reilly Media. There was a lot of evaluation and self-evaluation and looking through what this program has become, and it really rose to the top. And when you hear Dale speaking around the world, and when he gets up, he talks about UX every time. He talks about the mini Maker Fairs and people that he identifies with and that he is so proud of that are working around the world. And it's a really big point of pride and demonstration about the relevance and value of what we're all doing. So that's enough of a monologue. The whole point of today.
Do you have any idea of what the worldwide attendance of Maker Fairs is?
Yeah, I do. It's in my deck. We did do a.
Is this you?
Yeah.
I need to talk about that too, by the way.
We heard them in the
Well,
back.
anyway, I'll share the deck with you. It has-
Paved the same thing.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, right, so I'm involved with the other people that did the same thing.
Yeah, it's like I tell people,
So you can
So-
go with God's
61
with that.
worldwide.
In my head, it's 455.
It's just you
Yeah, let's see. I got it.
going on the road and driving.
So we said last year was 333,000, and this year is 415. Physical attendance at Maker Fairs. Yeah. The flagship combined was last year 160. We're saying this year it'll be 175. It's interesting. Our New York event doubled in size last year, so it'll be really. Our venue is constrained, but it'll be really interesting to see how New York if New York is going to eclipse Bay Area in not too long of a time, which is it's just going to be an interesting story to see roll out. So the aim of this today, when we pulled for what to talk about, I really just kind of very loosely grabbed onto some people who made some indication, maybe just the slightest indication.
Or we're volunteers.
Yeah. or we're asked and just wrote in and not even contacted. Maybe you see your name on this and you weren't even asked. That's the way things are going right now. But the goal is this is a workshop. We want to break out into these sessions. We want people who have taken the helm, who've been assigned, or who have volunteered to sort of lead these, maybe to start with some of their thoughts around best practices and ideas and how they see this topic. What they could share with folks and what they've learned. And then it's really a dialogue and a workshop so that people can, I really like each group to have one whiteboard and at least one note taker. And then the end of each session is come back and do a quick presentation of what you found. So you'll be taking pictures of the boards, we'll be sharing them, we'll be documenting them, and then we'll be rolling them into the playbook. You are here to learn things, but you're also here to contribute.
Awesome.
And so I think one thing I know is that Louise is going to show up at 11:30, so I can radio her when we're ready to split. The beginning, we didn't. I'll do a poll right now. We could do further introductions if you guys feel like you want more information around. Does everybody feels relatively acquainted from Dale's thing? I guess I would say that, what's the other, I just lost it. So this program, for those of you, I didn't build into this program a time for me to sort of orient the people that don't know anything about the licensing program and what are the steps involved. We didn't even market this event to the broader world so much. We really wanted it to be around people that are committed. And so, forgive me, those of you who are just new to all of this, and I can talk to you individually you a little bit about how it works, but that wasn't really what I wanted to do today. I think, you know, my biggest sort of feeling about what's going on with you all is that we need to figure out how to provide more resources to this program and to provide, you know, more materials and more tools to, you know, as Sherry's referring to, and more bandwidth, you know. It's just a tremendous sense of guilt when I'm not getting back to folks, and I apologize for my recent lack of communication, but that, I think, for our program and from what I see, you know, we have a docket of priorities and things that are aspects we want to develop. I have a new website that's like really just needs attention to push it live, which will happen right after the fair, but you know, it's an exciting time, and I do think also, though, conversely, it's time to get you guys roped in a little bit more to, you know, to crowdsource these learnings and everything. So that's what today is about.
So,
Yeah, thank you for, I think we can get the how-to get started from other sources. But what I'm really interested in for this group, especially the ones that have just had their first ones or their second mini fairs or whatever you put together, I would like a little discussion about the errata sheet of all the things that went wrong, that were unexpected, the things that made you nuts, the things that almost took everything off the rails, those kinds of things. That's what we can learn from. And I know there's probably dozens and dozens of those, but I would like to know a hierarchy of some of those things that you've run into that were just hurdles, bottlenecks, or just plain scary things that happened that were really unexpected. It wasn't even part of a playbook kind of thing.
Well,
So I would be very interested in taking that back.
So let me speak
could
to,
build
let me
it
just
in
speak, that
someplace.
brings up couple things. I hope you're all on there's two ways we communicate to each other. There's a Google Plus community, which is a private community, which has just started. It's, it's really an opportunity for you guys to lead discussions, to do hangouts. It's really not, I don't have the bandwidth to be driving hangouts all the time like I wish. But it's a real availability. You can get on there and just invite the whole community to do a hangout at any point and see who's online to have a conversation about what you're struggling with or whatever. Or just to talk. Secondarily, we have an email list. So once you're licensed, you're invited to join the email list. And so some of the things that come, those are two forms for doing that. I mean, we could spend for the next 10 minutes before Louise gets here, and we're going to formally break out into the first two sessions. We could spend a few minutes just actually sharing like the biggest hair.
Before you do that, I'm just very detailed on this, as I always do. I would be happy to share them with people later.
please.
But I just want to check that everyone's comfortable then that I would be taking down what you said and then maybe sending it out to you to be able to
Do it now.
everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You're all already on Twitter.
She's already said jizz in the opening statement. What are we doing
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
I just wanna check
It
that's all.
it only gets good from Jess. So,
Go ahead.
so you did have introduction time built in originally, and I do want to, that's a great topic. I want to talk about it. But one of the things, I think if we're really going to get to your vision of crowdsourcing, part of what we ought to do, and we don't have to do it right now, we could do it later, but we need to tell you how we can help and what our gifts are and where we want to plug in. I mean, you've already heard from me that I want to help you with automating.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of what's being done right now is manual, and so it breaks down at bottlenecks.
Yeah.
And so, there's a lot of automation that I personally could help with, and I'm sure there's other people around this room who would like to do some of the similar things. So we are your staff, and you want to hear from us how we can help you, I guess.
It's a great idea.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, if anybody else has thoughts about that, about particular inspirations they have about.
We've had a great, I'd love to share with people how we've kept our community growing and building throughout the year through other events that we've had as a local makers group associated with our mini maker fair. We have a monthly event. So you have to share with that.
That would be a good thing to roll into the first session, which is building your second year into your first. I think that would be a good thing to get on. The first breakout is deliberately designed to kind of address, let's leverage Louise in terms of safety for the veterans. And one of the things I'm going to ask you is when we do this is it's going to be hard to choose which one you want to go to, and that's why we have to take good notes, and that's why we have to do presentations back to the group at the end of it, because of course we could all use every single one of the sessions. So, you know, and also do help me kind of equally populate the groups. So if you see something that looks really, really thin, it'd be great if you have a generous spirit and try to equally distribute yourselves. We have another few minutes. Are there other things that, thoughts about the agenda or about today that?
The thing I don't see on the list and the thing that I feel like I need the most is any information that you might have about how to deal with city and state entities in regards to courtesy maker care. Because I'm not entirely sure how to go about that, and it seems like a very painful process so far. So
That's something that's, you know, that.
Pretty
you know,
unique.
Some, like a group, there's a city of Danbury, Connecticut, that is the organizer of Maker Faire there. And there are also, that's a growing constituency. The two growth areas seem to be municipalities somehow and libraries. Those are the biggest new players this year. And there's probably a great opportunity for like pinging the group and say, I want to do this, or I want to do a hangout in 2 weeks on this. Who's interested? What time's the best time? You know, because that conversation can't just happen once a year or twice a year here. It's done.
I think, as somebody just said, you know, it's very unique, those issues, but perhaps that's one thing that at some point, somewhere, people in every area, in every city, after they've done a Maker Faire, can just go in and say, this is what we had to do for permits and stuff in our area or in our state, and it becomes a growing document, because the issues we have in Canada, in British Columbia, will be different than the issues in California. We're finding that with having, you know, some California makers wanting to come up and just do impromptu food demonstrations, and well, we have our health guidelines, and even in the Vancouver area, we have 2 different health authorities, depending on which city in the Lower Mainland you're facing your event. So I think that'd be a really interesting and ongoing document for people to contribute to.
Yeah, well, one of the things we talked about at the, one of the findings at the preparatory hangout was, you know, one of the action items was for me to post the playbook as broken up Google documents, because it's too big for one Google Doc, but in preparation for driving into a second volume, to post them and so that people can go in and throw stuff in. I mean, it's really hard. It's funny how collaborative documentation. There's no perfect tool. Yeah, but you know, as long as there's an origin and that people aren't deleting what other people say and they're just contributing comments, it can just be a mess until it gets compiled back into a formal document. So I think that is something I want to do. It's already been an action item, so it just needs to happen.
But maybe I'm missing your point that there's people who are in the same areas who've already dealt with it, and that would be the most big opening opportunity. Funding someone who's going to have those specific workers.
Well, and it's also incredibly dependent upon what your government entity, because all law is subjective. And, and in my experience, I'm dealing with one library and one government who won't sign the agreement because of this one particular thing, and another city who like doesn't even read it and they sign it. So it's absolutely totally dependent upon who you're working with.
We have, in Calgary, we have, our mayor's really tried to get rid of red tape. He's assigned people specifically to be their main point of contact with the government. And that's been a huge help. So if you can find somebody that can act as your advocate on behalf of your event, and then invite them to meetings or just be kind of.
Yeah, we have a council member, city council member as part of our planning team, actually.
Yeah, it's a smart move.
Yeah. So just a quick suggestion, because I see us kind of going in a lot of different directions right now. It sounds like many of the things, and I'm thinking back to your topic, which I still think is really, really good. I'm thinking that those things can actually be interspersed in our discussions in all of the other sessions. That just is, these are the city planning, the government stuff, the what are the showstoppers, because the showstoppers come up in all of these areas, right? So I'm thinking those are just things to keep in the back of our heads as we're breaking down in groups and doing. That way we don't feel like we didn't get enough time to talk about it.
And if you aren't already on the Google groups, people post questions all the time, and
Yeah.
the answers are completely invaluable.
And maybe
Anything.
trash-
The Google groups are really
grab-
good.
grab one.
And we need a wiki. We need a wiki. We need to all be editing that wiki
Yeah,
heavily.
there's so many people that don't use wikis though. I'm so.
But we'll build it. We will build it. We'll populate it. Yeah.
I'm working right now on a tool that I'm building, and it's kind of an alpha beta state right now, and it's the dream tool for organizing. And it's something I built because I've been doing everything from PTA organizing events for 35 years, you know. And it's a tool called Skillsway, and I'll get it to you, but I'm loading everything up. So it's a way we can all just add stuff to everything. It's not a wiki. It's like Pinterest where you have stuff where you need it and you can see it and find it.
Right.
Because every year everybody reinvents the wheel, and it's so hard to find everything from last year's volunteers. And so I have this tool.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have found, I have used high and low because I work with so many different types of people, and so for the make team, we do one, I have different ways, but it's definitely in my experience with this group and with the kinds of people that are interested in these and the range of where people are coming from, lowest common denominator is, I feel like the only way that is going to continue, like any sense of, and you can see that actually, like the email list is the default.
Yeah.
Right?
The Google
And so it's interesting now. Look at how she's so on it. She is so together. She remembered in the middle of all of this that we are starting this breakout session in 3 minutes. So let's do that. We're going to split into, this is Louise Glasgow. She's the producer of Maker Faire. She drove the so we're going to split right now into 2 groups. We've got one building the second year into the first, which is really a topic around, really building an identity around your fair and having a sense of ambition about it from the get-go. Like, what are the factors that make a difference in terms that you can kind of embed into your event to grow it over time.